Welcome back to part 15 of the MoreCore tutorial extension series. My name is Damned, and in this extension we're going to go and dive into some Lua and see how we do some of the basic character building and character tips for character building. This is the blank desktop, and when we open up a brand new character sheet, we can see this, just a couple of fields I filled out here, just the name basically, and what we're going to do is open the classes dialog, and we can see we've got a bunch of classes in there. Haven't finished prepping all the classes yet. We're going to add the dwarf, the elf, and the halfling, and the knight. So what you do is, like the 5e rule set, you grab one of these by the shield and you drag it into the class field. You can see I've dragged a cleric into the class field. We can see a bunch of things have happened. The first thing that's happened is we've now got a title, the acolyte. We've now got some saving throws that have been filled out, and there's a stack of messages in the chat window. Cordelia is now a level 1 cleric and is known as Acolyte Cordelia. To hit armor class 0 is now 19. New saving throw values 11, 12, 14, 16, 15. Add additional hit dice hit points. 1d6 plus con bonus. Gain the following abilities: proficient with blunt weapons and armor, cleric spells, and turn undead. You have the following spells: 2 first level spells. You have the ability to turn undead, target 7, target 9, target 11 for the first 3 levels of undead, and then you're at this level you're not capable of turning more powerful undead creatures. And the experience needed for the next level, being level 2, is 1500. If we go to the notes tab, we can see that the 1500 has also been filled out automatically on the character sheet as well. I drag cleric in, and we can see there's the level field is automatically incremented to 2, and we've got a new message in chat with our new stats. Now, THACO updates automatically, saving throws update automatically, level updates automatically, and experience needed for next level updates automatically. Everything else you need to do yourself based on those messages in the chat window. I've now dragged a fighter in, and you can see that this system won't multi-class, but it does allow you to switch classes, which isn't correct, but that's just a coding thing at the moment. And so if I drag the fighter in, and we're now a level 3 fighter, which is a sword master, you can see that the sword master doesn't get any spells. He's a martial character only, and you can see he's got some abilities and experience needed for the next level. He gets 1d10 plus con bonus instead of 1d6 as the cleric did. If we convert this character to a thief, you can see that the thief has a 1d6 hit dice hit points, and they get skills. Those skills are things like pickpockets, find traps, detect traps, listen at doors, etc. And at level 4, 40% chance of reading languages. That's a written language, so if you find a scroll or a note, there's a chance, there's 2 ways of determining this: whether he's got a 40% chance of being able to read that, or whether the thief can read 40% of the content of that message. And that's up to you and how you want to interpret that, and the experience level, the experience needed. You can see that the fighter needed 8,000 for level 3, the thief only needs 9,600 for level 5. So thieves have a lower experience points required for them to level up. We're now a magic user, and at level 5 the magic user is a thaumaturgist, and we can see there that the level 5 magic user would get 2 level 1, 2 level 2, 1 level 3 spells, excluding any intelligence bonus spells. And you can either level up by dragging these classes on each time, or you can simply increment, or in the case of, say, a level drain touch, you might have to decrement your class level, and you can just adjust the number level, or you can drag your classes on as we've been doing in this example. So I've just scrolled this all the way up to 17, and you can see at level 17 this wizard is going to kick ass with 6 level 1 spells, 5 level 2 spells, 5 level 3 spells, 4 level 4, 4 level 5, 3 level 6, and 2 level 7 spells. So that's one badass wizard there. The Grand Wizard Cordelia. So now we're looking at the data common dbd.lua. So it's a script file, it's a Lua file, it's not an XML file. And this actually runs on startup as the extension of rule set loads this up into memory, and we've got a whole bunch of Lua arrays that are being stored into memory, and then we can access them. So if we scroll down and have a look at this, we'll break it down a little bit. We can see that we've got our first array is called a fighter saves, and it starts from 0 level and it goes to 21. Our rule set is intending to cover 21 levels, and we're starting at 0 because 0 level creatures or 0 level monsters, 0 level NPCs are quite a common thing in the BX world, and they use 0 level fighter saves. So that's why we start these arrays with 0 level. Now these arrays of 5 numbers each are saving throws for saves versus death, saves versus wands, save versus paralysis, save versus breath, save versus spell. Each of those has several other things that they are saving against, but we've just short labeled them in there as those, and you can see that the saving throws get easier, as in the target number gets lower as the character or actor becomes more powerful as they go up in levels. One thing I've done here that's quite different to the original BX is that I've smoothed out the progression tables. A lot of the saving throw tables progress every 3 or every 4 or every 5 levels, and to me that's kind of it's less fun for the player. You might go from level 5 to level 6 and you get extra hit points and a new name or a new title, and that's it, you know. And then on the next level you might get 3 things get improved. So what we've done is smooth out the progressions a little bit. So typically there's a progression every 2 levels, and that flows on into some other things further down, some other abilities and attributes as they improve. Also, we've smoothed out the progression tables and tried to get things happening on every level. So we can't improve our saves every level, but if our saves aren't improving, perhaps our to hit armor class 0 improves, or some other ability applies at that level. So we've got our fighter saves from level 0 through to 21. Scrolling down a bit more, we've got our titles. So in Basic Expert and in AD&D, at least the first edition, you could tell how powerful somebody was by their title. People didn't run around and say, hey, I'm a level 14 fighter. People would say, I am Azkaban, or I am Lord Azkaban, and that way you knew that they were at least a name level fighter. Or if they said that they were the Swordmaster Azkaban, then you would know that they were a level 3 warrior. Of course they could be bluffing, putting it on a little bit, or it could be you introducing yourself and you could be trying to over or underestimate your abilities, but it was a bit of flavour that was in these early editions. So we've got our fighter titles, and you can see the array here is a little bit different because we don't need, there's only a single value for each level in these ones, and we don't have a 0 level fighter title. So we start with Swordsman, which is level 1, and we haven't had to include these numbers where we've got a fighter saves and then a bracket and then the number 0 through to 21. Lua, if you don't have these index numbers here in the square brackets, it will start the array from value 1, and as our characters start basically at level 1, that works quite well. We'll see that in the code a bit further up. We've got our fighter hit dice, so for our first X number of levels. Now again, in BX I think this only goes up to level 9, and then after level 9 you would get just a base 3 hit points per level. You don't even get your con bonus anymore. We've pushed this out to level 14, and we've included the con bonus for all advancements even above that level. But this is just text. This is just a descriptive text. Then we've got specials, and I'm still building these out. And as again I was talking about that philosophy where we want to try and have things happen for the character every single level. When they level up, they want to see that their character gains some new abilities, some new strengths, all that sort of stuff. So we're adding these in here, and we're filling these tables out a bit more. So level 1, proficient with weapons and armor. Okay. Level 2, they get lance attack and set spear skills. Level 3, +1 to hit with their preferred weapon. Bonus attack every 3rd round. So you attack once on round 1, once on round 2, and on round 3 you get to attack twice. And you can see there on level 8, every 2nd round they get a bonus attack. And on level 12 they get 2 attacks every round. And at level 16, 3 attacks per round. Level 24 attacks per round. So obviously the fighter is a pretty powerful combat machine, melee machine, as they start getting multiple attacks per round. Our THAC0 is of course now to hit armor class 0, and we've seen this table earlier when we coded our THAC0 roll. The progressions here slow as the fighter goes up in levels, so we can see incrementing 1 we get 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 12, 11, 11, 10, 10, and right up here at levels 19, 20, 21 that the progression slowed down, or even earlier. We can see the progression has slowed down to every 3rd level at this stage. Fighter experience per level, so level 1 2000, level 2 4000, level 3 8000, etc., right up again to level 21. All of these arrays go to level 21. And see, we've got the same thing here for rangers. Now rangers, paladins were subclasses of the fighter in BX. They weren't really defined differently. We've decided to break that out a little bit more, and the main place that will have an effect is in the specials. So of course our rangers will have different titles of runner, strider, scout, and our name level rangers are ranger lords. Our fighter, because he's going to get less of the other abilities that say the paladin and the ranger, and we've included another class as well called the knight, they don't get the abilities that those more focused classes get, so I've given them 1d10 for their hit dice. Our ranger sticks with the 1d8 that the original fighter had in the BX rule set. Our specials, I'm still building these out. We can see I've probably just copied the fighter one to start with, and I'm going to update those as we go, but we can see we've got tracker and climb and move silently outdoors and poison resistance. They're all kind of pretty standard ranger abilities. The rangers use the same THAC0 lists as the fighter, the same experience levels as the fighter. Then we have our paladin, and the paladin will also get at some point, I haven't actually got the knight in the table just at this document at the moment. We can see thief. The thief, it's all quite similar through these, but our specials, thieves get skills, and the skills are open locks, find traps, remove traps, climb walls, move silently, hide in shadows, pick pockets, and listen. And there's another one where they get to read language. There's another one where they get to use magic scrolls, magic user scrolls. Now, what I've done here again, thieves was fairly commonly suggested that thieves were underpowered at low levels, or actually these were pretty much underpowered all the way through. So these skill percentages eliminated the first 3 table arrays, so basically bumped everything up a few notches. Instead of having read languages kick in at level 8, it kicks in partially at level 4, again improves at level 6, improves again at level 8, and we'll do a few things like that to help modify the power of each of these classes. Fighters, I've tried to bump their martial prowess up with all those multiple attacks and some other skills there, so that at higher levels they're not completely overshadowed by the wizard. The wizard has all these amazing area of effect spells where they can target multiple enemies. What we want is the fighter to continue to be that specialist where they can take on the big guy, the big bad, and inflict large amounts of damage on a single opponent. Our cleric has the same standard arrays as our other ones too. but they have two new arrays that we haven't had up until now, and they are spells. Again, following that same philosophy, we're going to increase the spells just by a small amount for clerics and for magic users at levels 1 and 2. It's not much fun when your wizard casts his single magic missile and pretty much can't use any magical abilities again until he sleeps and studies his spell book again. So at early levels the wizard is really just baggage, and then at high levels they probably over dominate. So we're trying to balance these out just a little bit, but another thing we're probably going to do is add 2 cantrips to both the cleric and to the wizard. They won't be amazing cantrips. The wizard will probably get light as one of their cantrips. I don't want to give healing as a cantrip to the cleric, because healing was a big part of the cleric's core strengths, and healing was very rationed in these early editions of D&D. And clerics can also turn undead. So we've got an array of various different monsters or undead creatures, starting with a skeleton, going all the way up to the lich. And a 7 is you have to roll 2d6 and get a 7 or higher to turn 1 or more creatures, a 9 or higher, an 11 or higher, or you're unable to on those that are listed with zeros. If there's a T, it means that at that level you automatically succeed in turning 1 or more creatures, and at a D you automatically succeed in destroying 1 or more of those creatures. And where there's a double D, you get an extra d6 in hit dice of creatures that you can automatically destroy. And if we have any triple Ds, we don't. At level 21 it's still all double Ds. So the way you determine how many creatures could be turned is, again, you roll 2d6, and it's that number of hit dice of creatures will be turned or destroyed, and the GM applies that to whichever individuals the GM chooses to have turned. But there will always be a minimum. So you might roll 4 on your 2d6 and you're fighting with a 7 hit dice undead creature. One of them at least will still be turned regardless of your roll. Again, we've got the magic users. They don't have anything different, but we'll also have to build out the knight from the earlier classes, and then we'll need to build out the dwarves, the elves, and the halflings. And the dwarves, elves, and halflings do not continue to level up. They have a cap on what levels they can reach, but they have a lot more special abilities. They have more innate abilities that are tied to their class. As well, the elf will be a fighting wizard. The dwarf will be mostly a fighter. I'm toying whether it'll be a fighter slash cleric, and the halfling will be a fighter slash thief. So they have plenty of strengths of their own. There is no multi-classing in this particular version of this particular BX retro clone. The next file we're going to look at is the manager car dbd.lua. So it's another script file, and this script file is called from the character sheet, and it's called from the character sheet in 2 situations. Those 2 situations are when a class is dropped onto the character sheet, or when the character level is incremented or decremented, either by typing over it or by control scrolling your mouse over that field. So unlike the 5e rule set where you really have to drag your classes on each time, in this rule set you can simply increment or decrement the level field and just that field, and it will do it. And we'll go through what happens in this script step by step, but fairly briefly. So the first one is add class db. So this is just our script name. So when the script name is called and these 3 variables are passed to it, we have the following actions. We have the class link is created on the character sheet, and this is where we get a link added to the character sheet. Let's view that really quickly. the character sheet, we have our class here, and if we click on this field, it will open up the Magic User class information, and we can view that straight from the character sheet. The next thing that this does is checks the what have we got here? It checks the current level and it increments the current level by 1, and that's it. So it does no other steps at this point in time. But what happens next is we have another function called add class level, and this is triggered from the character sheet. We can see in our record car more, which is the front page of our character sheet, we've got our TOT number field named level with a source of PC level, and this is where we store our character's level. We run a script, and the script is executed on value changed. So regardless of how that value changed, whether it changes from another script or it changes, so the other script that could change it is a script up here where it does a PC level set value current level +1. So it retrieves the current level and then adds 1, and that's when we drag and drop a class onto it. That will trigger a change to that database field, as will the player manually adjusting that field. So when that happens, on value changed, we collect some information. We get the node car, we get the class, and we get the record. And the record is the link, the class link field, and we send these 3 pieces of information to our car manager DBD script file, and we call the add class level function. So this is our, we'll go back here and we find car manager DBD is common scripts manager car DBD. So when any function is prepended with this, it means that the function is embedded in this file. So what happens then is when this value is changed, we collect these values and we pass those values to our add class level. And our add class level is this function. Now this is quite a lengthy function. So the next thing it does is it clears some of our arrays, just some housekeeping. I was using local arrays, but then I had to start nesting things as I added more classes in, and my local variables weren't being passed out, so we started using global variables, and then we just have to clear them each time this is called. So if we have a look, we're going to also call the class, which is Magic User Fighter, etc., and we're going to call the level. So we've got our character ID, we've got our class, we've got our level. So if our class is fighter, if our class is ranger, paladin, etc., so if our class is fighter, first thing we're doing is we're going to set value of field 4. Field 4 is one of these fields in the combat tracker, in the combat tab, and it's this one which we've repurposed to THACO. Now I know 4 seems like a funny name, but remember we're building this on our generic rule set called MoreCore, and the first 3 fields were named. They were health and defense and wounds, and our next 2 fields, which were generic, could be repurposed for various uses, were called 4 and 5. So our field 4 has been repurposed as THACO, and what we're going to do here is store we're going to store a value in here, and the value we're going to do is we're going to use data common DBD. So we'll find data common DBD in here. This script data common DBD is calling scripts data common DBD dot Lua, and that file is the one we went through earlier. It's the one with all of our different arrays of information in it. So we're going to do a lookup of these arrays, and we're going to search for fighter, THAC0, and we're going to do the current level plus 1. And the reason we have to do the current level plus 1 is that for the fighter in particular, but we kept that syntax going across all of them, is that we had something called a 0 level fighter, or an equivalent of a 0 level fighter. So our 0 level fighter is used in quite a few different things. So our 0 level fighter, THAC0, this starts at 0. This is 0 field. So we're grabbing out the N level plus 1. So if they were a level 1 fighter and they leveled up, it would be second level fighter. But then we're doing second level 2 plus 1. So the third field. So they would get a THAC0 of 18. Go back to our script. So we're going to store that retrieved value in field 4, and that would basically improve the THAC0. And then we've also got our combat rolls would automatically improve because our THAC0 target has improved. We've got a debug message in here just as a bit of a sanity check, and these will get commented out as this progresses on, but we're just simply throwing it out there so I can see what it is and that what it is. So it's a THAC0 and the value it's retrieving. The next one is our title field. So as our fighter progresses up, their names will change from swordsman to warrior to swordmaster, hero, swashbuckler, myrmidon, etc. And we're retrieving the value of my title, but we're not using it just yet. We're retrieving the value of and now we're using this PC title and we're setting the value in the PC title field. So my title here is what we recovered here. So we're looking up executing that function and to look up the array, and we're going to grab the field in position, basically equivalent to their level. We're going to do something similar with saves, but this time we're only going to retrieve the value. We're not using it. We're going to retrieve the hit dice and not use it. We're going to retrieve the special skills and not use them yet. We're going to retrieve experience and not use them just yet. We'll find that we do the same things here for all of our classes: fighter, ranger, paladin, etc., going down the page. And again, I still haven't put our demi-humans in here just yet. We'll go to the end. And what happens next is we're going to start using some of those values that we stored. And some of the actions happen within those class delineations, and some happen outside of it. And what we're doing is, for example, our fighter, their experience, it's pulling up the experience from the fighter table but storing it as a generic name, my experience. The experience tables for the knight pulls it from the knight table and stores it with a generic name, the same generic name that we used for the fighter, the same generic name that we used for the paladin, the same generic name that we used for the thief. We've got some classes, such as the cleric, that have additional fields being set. Spells, turn undead. The magic user has spells. So what happens here is our saving throws, our very first saving throw field, because when we retrieve that array, it retrieves 5 numbers, and it uses the first number to fill the save death roll, and we're going to use the set value, the field called save death, and we're going to set it as our save field number 1, save number 2, save number 3, 4, 5, etc. We're going to set the experience. So we saw that the experience needed for the next level was stored on the Notes tab. We're going to store that, and again we're just going to use a generic variable name, which is my experience, but that pulls it from the specific table based on their class in the if-thens further up the page. They're the actions that we actually are making changes to the character sheet so far. We're setting to hit armor class 0, we're setting the title, we're setting the experience needed for the next level, and we're setting the saving throw targets. What we're going to do now is build some messages. So the first part of this message is we're declaring an icon. Our icon is crown, so crown must be defined somewhere else. It's an icon. The icon will then point to a file. We're retrieving our extra values here. We've got our level, class, name, to hit armor class 0, and then we're starting to build something called message.text. So we're going to build up a series of messages, and then we're going to deliver them to the chat window. So the first part is sname, so that's our actor's name, is now a level variable, class variable, and is known as their title and name. So they are now known as Swordmaster Cordelia. Then we're going to add another message text. So we start with message text, and it equals the previous message text, and then we're going to append some extra information. We can see that the previous message text finished with a carriage return. Our next message text is going to carry on from that carriage return to hit armor class 0, the new armor class 0 value, carriage return. Then we're going to append our previously built message text again, and we're going to outline the new saving throw values. We can see again we're using the 5 values independently. Then we're going to add another line of text, add additional hit dice or hit points, and then it's going to put that message out: 1d10 plus constitution bonus, or 1d4 plus constitution bonus, or plus 2 hit points plus constitution bonus. Then we're going to output the special abilities. So we're again appending the previous message. We're going to say gain the following abilities, and then going to list the abilities for that level. However, on this one we're using an if statement. So if there is a value in the array results for my special, then it's going to output this message. So even though I'm aiming to have some sort of something special happen on every level, it may be that it's not a special ability. It may be that they're improvements to hit armor class 0, improvements to your saving throws, and you don't get a particular named ability or improvement ability at that level. So this will do a check. If this is not empty, then append to the message text. Again, if spells is not nil. Now these syntaxes are a little bit different, and there's a reason for that in the data structure. Then append the following message. You have the following spells and a list of the spells. Now this does not take into effect any bonus spells that you gain for your primary attribute. Then if my turn, now my turn is the variable that stores the cleric's turn undead table. So again, it's only going to return this if they're a cleric, because only the cleric will have a value stored in my turn. And I'll say you have the ability to turn undead. And then message text, experience needed for the next level. This is the value that we have previously stored on the notes tab of the character sheet. And then we have the final message where we do a com deliver chat message. So this whole message, starting with the portrait, and then the icon, the crown icon, and then the full message will get output to chat. And we saw that earlier. We could see all these different messages here, and we could see that the messages varied depending on the class. So our magic user got spells listed when they leveled up. If we change this to our cleric and we level them up or down, we get spells and turn undead. And if we change this to a thief, we will get, now when I dragged the class on, it incremented this field, so it automatically kicked off the script where all these functions happen. So Cordelia is now a thief, and we lose our spells, and we lose our turn undead, and we gain our skills, our thieves' special abilities, these numbers here. So there's a fair bit happening in this file, in these two script files, but I hope that walkthrough helps you understand how I built this. I'm sure there are many different ways of doing this, but I think this is a fairly straightforward way of pulling a whole bunch of data and automating what's easy to automate and telling the player and the GM what things need to happen for those things that didn't get automated. And things like the spell levels, the skills, these will be easy now for the player to quickly go in. They don't have to open up the player's handbook and thumb through to their level and find and align. All the information for their level, for the current level, has been stuck into chat the moment that they leveled up, and so they can do that. They can see that they get to roll an extra d6 plus their con bonus for their hit points. They adjust their hit points straight away. And the advantage with this approach as well is if you were to accidentally drag an incorrect class onto your character sheet, or to accidentally drag a class on twice, or somehow level up or down, you can really easily just drag the correct class back on, manually adjust the level, and all the automatic fields will set themselves up correctly, and you won't have done all your dice rolls and adjusted all your skills and everything else. But even if you had, the full number of all of that information is in chat, so you can update those fields accurately and at that time. So whilst it has somewhat less automation than, say, the 5e rule set, it's more flexible, and it allows you to, if you made a mistake or you experiment, you level right up, then you want to level right back down again, it's really simple and it won't mess up. You won't have hit dice rolling for you automatically and then having to manually subtract all of those. So there are pros and cons of both methods. Thank you. This was a much longer video. Thanks for persisting and working through it with me. Hopefully this will give you some design tips for your implementation of your rule set for MoreCore or for Core RPG.